Hi, this is Melanie Jutras, and I wanted to talk today about SNHU DAT510 Foundations of Data. Some students are struggling with the lab this week in Module 4, and I wanted to give you some tips. So if you go to your course menu and you look at the learning modules, you'll see along the left side here the different modules, and down at the bottom of those is that virtual lab access link. If you go to that and you click on this virtual lab access, it will pop up in a new tab this statistics app that you can then launch. So this brings up the virtual environment. And this is basically a virtual machine, as we described before in a previous week, how this works. But you need to be aware this is just, you don't want to get confused with this environment with your own desktop environment down here. So this right here is where the virtual lab is. And if you find that confusing, you can click this button up here in the upper left to expand the whole thing, so now you're only looking at your virtual environment. So for this lab, the instructions do kind of repeat the downloading of the files, which we did in Lab 1. So in most cases, if you did Lab 1, you should be able to go to a file explorer here in your own virtual environment and open that, and you should be able to go to this DFS M drive, so it's mapped to an M drive. Just expand that, and then you'll see users, expand that, and then you should see your name here, your login. Mine is first initial dot last name underscore SNHU. And at that point, this is where I put the data. So in my particular case, I put it on the desktop in a folder called DAT510 data files, and there's this mod 4. So this is where those files are that they're referring to in the lab, and then that really is already down on brings you through to step number 6, where it says assignment guidelines and rubrics 3, 4, 5, 6. That tells you to navigate to the folder. I'm going to pull that up so you can see that. So this is my lab document, Lab 4 document. So you can see it brings you through to this step 6. And then step 7 says navigate back to the RStudio environment, and then they want you to continue on from there. I will also make a note about that. Navigate back to the RStudio environment. I think some students are confused about that because there's this R icon, and then there's also this RStudio icon. So let me just open them both. If you open the R, if you just click on the R icon, this is the R GUI. So this is the GUI for the R language, the graphical user interface for the R language. But then there's also this nice integrated development environment called RStudio that might be a little bit easier for some students to work with. So if you click on RStudio, it brings up just kind of like a user interface that helps you to interface with the language R. And it provides a lot more functionality. So I think the lab might be confusing for some because they're not sure if they're supposed to use this R GUI or this RStudio interface. And you'll notice here in the RStudio interface it says console, and then it shows here the the version that you're using of R, and some people have noted to me that theirs doesn't say feather spray, it says something different. That's just the version, so you don't need to worry about that if it says something a little bit different than the lab. I think it says warm puppies or something. It's related to Peanuts comic strips. I'm not sure the details behind that, but see here in the R GUI there's this R console. It's the same thing. This R console is the same as this R console. This one might be a little bit easier to work with. You can do, like one of the examples, they're saying ls to list the things. You can do that in either environment. It's the same thing. And then what they want you to do is do this file open script. So in RStudio it'll be file open file. If you go here to our GUI, it'll be file open script. So here you might, if you do the open script, you see this. If you do the file open file, let me go to the M, and then the users, and mjutras. So this is the part some people are getting confused with. And it depends on where you saved it. So I saved it to my desktop, Lab4. And then this Lab4. And so they want you to open that script. And that pretty much brings you to steps 10 and 11, which are the main parts that we need to do for this homework. And then on step 10, they describe, and there's a quick video that describes that if you click on the line in this file, all the stuff is here for you. You don't even have to really type it. If you click on this ls with the parentheses and then click run, it's going to run that line. So that happened here. If you go here to set working directory, so in this case, you know, I might want to change this to M users, and then m.jutras.snhu desktop DAT510 mod 4. I'm not sure if that's what I called it, but I'm going to say run. It says error, cannot change working directory. So let me see what my working directory is. I still have this file explorer open, and Jutras desktop DAT510. Then I had DAT510 underscore data files mod 4. So I called it something different maybe than I was supposed to. So I'm gonna change it up here in the file and add an extra DAT510 underscore data files. And also notice these are forward slashes. If you look at your Windows File Explorer here, these are M backslash forward slash. I'm saying it backwards. The slashes are reversed. So I think I have it right here now. So if I click run on this line, then my set working directory worked. And then down here in the console, if I say get working directory, it'll tell me what my working directory is. So now I'm all set with that. And then the first instruction is to say lab1 gets read.table, and then lab1 underscore 01. And you'll notice in this directory structure, these files, mod 4, there's this lab underscore 01.txt and lab1 underscore 02.txt. So that's what I'm trying to assign to lab 1 and lab 2. You can put the cursor at the end or you can put it at the beginning, it doesn't matter. But when you're on that particular line and then you say run, it runs it and the results happen in the console. Now, there's no big results to see here, but that's good. That means there was not an error. Now my cursor is on lab 2, I say run, lab 2 gets assigned, blah, blah, blah. And then the nice thing about this, like I was talking about this RStudio environment, it's an integrated development environment, so it has in the environment up here, now you have something called Lab 1 and Lab 2, and you can look at them. So if you click on here, it tells you Lab 1 is 120,000 objects of 3 variables, tells you what they are. Lab 2 is 16 observations, 7 variables. So this is just how it works. You don't even have to type these things. This is all, this module for lab1.r is going to do all those steps for you. Let me just pull up the document. All those steps for you that it's asking you to do in this number 10 on the homework. Those are all, you don't even have to type this. See this Lab 2 read table? That's right here. You just put your cursor on the line and you say run. So I think those are enough key tips to get people started. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific that would be helpful. I think that's what most people were struggling with. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, and please email me or reach out on the group discussion board. If people are struggling, you might not be the only one. Okay, I hope this was helpful.